Last year, my ex-wife had an affair and decided to leave me. Oddly enough, I felt a sense of relief when it happened. From the outside, our marriage might have looked good, but on the inside, it was completely empty. For years, I felt broken down due to the mental and financial strain she put on me. She had a habit of taking large sums of money from my account, leaving me struggling to pay our bills. Whenever I confronted her about it, she turned it around on me, blaming me for not earning enough money. No matter what I did, it was never good enough for her. Everything I did seemed to annoy her or make her angry. I would try to plan dates for us or organize family activities in hopes of spending quality time together, but she was never interested. She would complain or get upset, preferring to stay in bed and sleep instead. Eventually, I stopped trying to include her in anything, which of course led to more complaints from her. She accused me of keeping the children away from her, even though she showed no interest in participating in the first place. After some time, she began spending nights away from home. Initially, she would say she was staying at a friend's house, someone I hardly knew, but when I asked questions, she became irritated and told me it was none of my business where she was. When my ex-wife decided she wanted a divorce, I found myself in a mix of emotions. On one hand, I was really worried about what my life would look like after the divorce. On the other hand, I couldn't help but feel relieved that there was an end in sight to our unhappy marriage. I made it a point to carefully read all the documents her lawyer sent over. It turned out her lawyer wasn't very careful, making a lot of mistakes in the paperwork. These errors ended up delaying our divorce hearing by several months. Every time I spotted a mistake, I would send the documents back without signing them. Then, his office would have to correct and resend them, but often they would make new mistakes or repeat the old ones. There were some pretty big mistakes in the paperwork, too. They misspelled my name, her name, got both our birth dates wrong, and even messed up our child's name and birth date. They listed children that weren't ours, got our marriage date wrong, and even had our home address incorrect. They included properties we didn't own, pets we didn't have, and businesses that weren't ours, even suggesting a settlement involving $500,000 for businesses we didn't own. One of the drafts even had her lawyer's own name spelled incorrectly, which I found so funny, I laughed about it while I was in the bathroom. It took about 7 drafts before they managed to fix most of these mistakes. But even the final draft that was submitted to the court still had major errors in it. This whole process was frustrating, but also a bit amusing because of the sheer number of mistakes and how basic they were. It made a difficult situation a little more bearable, knowing that at least these mix-ups were slowing things down and giving me time to prepare for what was next. During our divorce proceedings, my ex-wife's lawyer tried to make a case in front of the judge that I should cover all the court and legal fees. However, I was able to make a strong argument against this. I pointed out that many of the delays in the process were due to mistakes on their end, not mine. There were so many errors in the paperwork they sent me that it took longer to get everything sorted out. Because of this, the judge didn't make me pay those fees. After we got divorced, my ex-wife moved in with the man she left me for. It turns out he's not a good guy at all and has been abusive. Once I changed all my banking passwords, she suddenly lost access to my money. She quickly realized just how much she relied on my income to support her lifestyle, which was a bit of a shock to her. To make matters worse, she had been managing the payments for the house we were living in, which actually belonged to her uncle. Because she wasn't making the payments, the house almost got taken away by the bank. Her uncle came to me, desperate for help. He told me that if I wanted to stay in the house, I'd need to cover the back payments she missed, which added up to about $15,000 for 6 months of unpaid mortgage. I didn't have that kind of money just lying around, so I suggested buying the house from him instead. To my surprise, he agreed, and now I own the house that used to belong to my ex-wife's grandmother. It's been a year since the divorce was finalized. I've received a promotion at work, which came with a nice pay increase. I'm still living in the same house, working on making improvements whenever I can afford to. I haven't found a new girlfriend, but through online dating, I've been meeting new people and enjoying my single life. Looking back, it's almost funny how my ex-wife left a stable situation for someone who turned out to be far from what she expected, and her actions nearly caused her uncle to lose his property. In a way, her decision to divorce me ended up being a huge favor to me, even if it didn't seem like it at the time. She might try to come back to you when she realizes the grass isn't greener on the other side. But remember, don't let her tears sway you, and make sure you never take her back. Now for my update, November 3rd is coming up, marking 1 year since my divorce was finalized. In this past year, I've taken significant steps to improve myself. I started seeing a therapist who encouraged me to focus on personal growth, and that's exactly what I've been doing. I've changed my diet and exercise routine, which led me to lose over 50 pounds. Soccer has always been a passion of mine, so I got back into playing regularly and even started coaching my kids' youth soccer team. On top of that, I rediscovered my love for reading, setting a goal to read a new book every week. My efforts have paid off at work too. I received a big raise and a promotion, which has made it much easier for me to take care of myself and my child. Despite all these positive changes, my ex-wife suddenly wants to be part of our lives again. Her latest relationship, with a man she thought was her savior from our terrible marriage, has turned violent. He's been abusive, and one recent episode was so severe it landed her in the hospital. Our child was with her at the time and had to call for an ambulance. Despite the evidence, my ex-wife refuses to press charges or admit what happened, though the bruises clearly tell the story. Just last night, I attended a family party. This side of the family and I have always gotten along well, and they invited me over. I was polite to my ex-wife but kept my distance, choosing not to engage in conversation with her. However, her family seems to have convinced her that we're still in love, which couldn't be further from the truth. My ex-wife might have been okay with how things were in our marriage, but I certainly wasn't happy at all. I became so withdrawn and unresponsive, almost like I was just there as another source of money for her. In the last 2 years we were together, she emotionally and financially took advantage of me. During our final year as a married couple, she was cheating on me with another guy. Every time I tried to talk to her about her affair, she denied everything and would run off to his place. When I finally caught her red-handed, she blamed me, saying it was because I wasn't supportive enough. But the truth was, I was giving her all my earnings after paying our bills. I hadn't even bought myself new clothes or shoes for years because of how tight money was. Then, out of the blue, she turned up at one of the soccer games. After the game, she asked me if I was ready to move back in with her. I was totally taken aback and asked her why on earth I would do something like that. She launched into this whole story about how we're still in love, we have a kid together, and how it would be better for our child if we raised them together. I had to tell her straight that I don't have any love or trust left for her at all. I even reminded her that she still owes me over $1,100 for fixing her car. Her response? She said she'd pay me back if we moved in together. That's when I couldn't hold back and just burst out laughing, so hard that I doubled over. Seeing me laugh, she started crying, which honestly just made me laugh even harder. Maybe it wasn't the kindest reaction, but after everything I've been through and all the effort I've put into bettering myself, the idea of going back to her, to the very person who caused me so much pain, just seemed like the worst possible decision. My child still holds a lot of affection for his mother, and I would never do anything to damage their relationship. I believe if there's any turning away to be done, she'll manage that on her own with her actions. The idea that she suggested we move back in together took me by surprise. She didn't offer any apologies or show any signs of regret for her past actions. Instead, she just boldly proposed we start living together again, acting as if she's bringing something valuable to the table. This kind of thinking on her part is pretty out there. And then there's our child, who had to go through the distressing experience of seeing his mom in a harmful situation. That's something that could really affect him deeply. I think it's important to try and secure full custody to protect him from being in such a harmful environment again. Moving on to my latest news, I've met someone really special. I understand that healing from all these events will take time for everyone involved, but I'm hopeful that we can all find our own versions of happiness, whatever decisions we make about our relationships. This past year has been a roller coaster for me. I celebrated the first anniversary of my divorce on November 3rd. Since then, I've been focusing on self-improvement through therapy, and I've been dating. I've met some fantastic women and admittedly, a few that weren't a great match for me. Just this Monday, my ex-wife came across a Facebook post from my girlfriend, Cher. Cher had shared some photos from a wonderful trip we took together over the weekend. We indulged in delicious food, enjoyed a few drinks, and generally had an incredible time, capturing lots of fun moments in photos. I'm not usually one to document my dates with pictures, but I really like Cher. So, when she asked if she could post our trip pictures and tag me, I was happy to agree. I was pretty sure sharing those photos would stir up some drama, but the reaction I received from my ex-wife and her family was astonishingly intense. Let me give you a bit more background to paint the whole picture. My ex-wife was unfaithful for over a year before we officially ended our marriage. She was seeing someone else even before we separated and moved in with her boyfriend while our divorce was still being processed. Now, we've been divorced for a year. Throughout our marriage, my ex-wife was both emotionally and financially manipulative and harmful towards me. Unfortunately, she continues to be abusive, but after I posted those photos, she dropped to an entirely new level of hostility and disrespect towards me. On Monday, she twisted the story to make it look like I was the one who had been unfaithful. She complained about how shameful it was for me to humiliate her by sharing pictures on social media, where I'm seen with other women. She accused me of being selfish and insensitive for not considering her feelings, and labeled me a coward for hiding that I'm seeing other people. She even claimed that by my actions, I've destroyed any hope of us ever getting back together, saying that any love she still had for me was killed off by what she called my cheating ways. The whole time she was making these accusations, she was on the phone, shouting and berating me. Meanwhile, I couldn't help but find the irony of her claims hilarious. I just laughed as she spent a good 30 minutes ranting about how I supposedly ruined our relationship and betrayed her, despite her being the one who cheated and was abusive throughout our relationship. When my ex-wife asked me about my fidelity during our marriage, I was clear with her. I had been completely faithful and loyal until our relationship officially ended. She didn't stop there, though. She went on to question me about my dating life since our divorce. That made me laugh even more, and I firmly told her that my personal life is no longer her concern since we're not together anymore. I pointed out to her that just as I don't meddle in her affairs, she has no right to intrude into mine. Despite my attempt to set this boundary, she bombarded me with a series of really hurtful and offensive text messages, attacking me and my current girlfriend, Cher. She even threatened to send Cher direct messages to tell her all sorts of negative things about being married to me. I told her she was welcome to try if she thought it would make any difference. Then my ex-wife mentioned wanting to meet Cher in person to see what kind of woman she is, suggesting that Cher must be a terrible person for supposedly breaking up a happy marriage. That's when I really had to question her grasp on reality. I reminded her bluntly that our marriage had ended over a year ago, and it was she who had an affair, left me for someone else, and filed for divorce. At this point, my ex-wife broke down crying. Through her tears, she confessed that she had been holding on to hope that we might somehow reconcile. She complained that it was unfair I had moved on and found someone else to spend time with, insisting that I should be focusing on doing things with her and our child, as if we were still a family. This whole conversation highlighted just how disconnected from reality my ex-wife had become, seemingly unable to accept the consequences of her own actions that led to the end of our marriage. My ex-wife recently confessed to me that she's unhappy in her current relationship with her boyfriend, mentioning that he doesn't treat her well. Honestly, I wasn't surprised by this revelation, because I had suspected as much for a while. However, hearing about her problems doesn't bring me any satisfaction. In fact, I really don't have any feelings for her anymore, and I have no desire to get back together with her. I'd prefer it if we didn't have to interact at all. But on a brighter note, my life is going really well right now. I've found happiness with my girlfriend, Cher. She brings so much joy into my life, and I always look forward to spending time with her. She's the last person I talk to before I go to sleep, and the first one I reach out to when I wake up. We're even planning another trip together soon. I'm aware that sharing photos of our trip might trigger a negative reaction from my ex-wife, but to me, living my life happily is worth any backlash. It's clear to me now that my ex-wife has always tried to make me out to be the bad guy, which is a classic narcissistic behavior. To those giving me advice, you're right. I should keep our interactions strictly about our child and avoid getting dragged into long, pointless conversations with her. And yes, I'm prepared for the possibility that she might try to spread lies about me, but I'm focusing on moving forward positively. Now, for a bit of a reflection 2 years on, the day everything changed for me was March 21st, 2022. That late night in 2021, I discovered not just one affair, but evidence of another, and possibly more, after 23 years of marriage, two biological children, and a stepchild. I spent a year trying to mend our relationship, but her ongoing issues with mental health, PTSD, substance abuse, and secretive behavior, like finding a second phone she was using, made it impossible to continue trying to reconcile. The final straw in my marriage came when she fired a gun into my side of the bed. That terrifying moment made me decide to end things once and for all. I filed for divorce in April, and by June, it was all over. The relief I felt was enormous. It was like I had been given a second chance at life. Up until that point, I hadn't fully grasped just how much stress and fear I had been living with. Looking back, I can see all the mistakes I made. After discovering her betrayal, I reacted all wrong. Instead of taking time to process everything, I rushed into trying to fix our relationship without addressing the underlying issues. We didn't seek therapy immediately, which was a huge oversight. By the time we did start therapy, it was already too late to make any difference. Our children had already lost all respect for their mother, and I was left feeling a mix of devastation, humiliation, anger, and grief. I was barely getting through the days, feeling like a zombie. In April of last year, I was overwhelmed by the number of people who reached out to offer their support after my ex-wife launched a smear campaign against me on social media. She accused me of everything under the sun, from abuse and rape to stealing a significant amount of money. Of course, she conveniently left out her own actions. I responded by posting a short public service announcement to clear my name, stating that none of the accusations were true. I understood if some people felt they needed to distance themselves from me, but I also hoped others would be willing to give me the chance to prove my innocence. Meanwhile, I focused on improving myself. I got in shape, dropping from 250 pounds to 185. I also made a significant career move, taking on a new role that came with a promotion. I had plans to enjoy a summer of revenge by casually dating through phone apps. During this time, an old high school classmate reached out to me. She lived far away and was going through a similar breakup, having discovered her partner's betrayal about 6 months after mine. We started checking in with each other regularly, offering support and understanding. When I had to travel to Knoxville for work, we found ourselves texting one night, catching up and sharing our experiences. I had been looking forward to experiencing some live music during my stay, talking up how exciting the 2 nights ahead of me were going to be. But contrary to what I initially thought, my summer didn't turn out to be filled with a series of casual flings, as I had playfully imagined. Instead, what unfolded was a summer filled with beach outings, live music, tours of distilleries, since she really enjoys whiskey, and simply having a great time, the likes of which I hadn't experienced in years. As summer transitioned into fall, our relationship deepened. We got to meet each other's families, spent Thanksgiving with her family, celebrated Christmas together, and even took a trip to Las Vegas to enjoy a long weekend over the Super Bowl. All these experiences brought us closer. Now, as I celebrate my 52nd birthday, I find myself genuinely happy. The last couple of birthdays were pretty rough, but this one feels special and exciting because she's on her way to move in with me. She's a nurse and managed to quickly find a job in my city here in the South. She's decided to keep her own house and let her daughter rent it out. If a friend were in my situation, I might have cautioned them that it's too much too soon. But for us, it just feels like the right move. We're not rushing into marriage or anything like that. We're just two people who are tired of trying to match our schedules and missing out on time together. We're moving in together to see if our relationship is as strong as we believe it to be. On this forum, a lot of people talk about karma or getting revenge on their exes. In my case, my ex still sends me drunk texts, often saying she wishes we were still together. It's a mix of apologies and blaming me for our breakup. Half the time she's sorry, and the other half she still thinks everything was my fault. But the truth is, I'm much happier now without her. I'm less stressed, and I've met someone incredible. She's amazing, way more than I ever expected to be with, and she's really into me, even though I sometimes worry it's too good to be true. So, in a way, I feel like I've already gotten the best kind of revenge by just living my life well. My message to you all is that even though what happened to you because of your spouse or partner was devastating, it's possible to move past it and find happiness again. Sometimes, they don't realize the good thing they had until it's gone. But once you're on the other side, you might see that you're actually better off. I shared my story to inspire you not to give up no matter how tough things get. It's never too late to make a fresh start. Remember to put yourself first and have faith in your ability to recover and thrive. Things really can improve. I managed to start anew at 50, proving it's possible at any age. She starts out and she says, "Hello, and thank you for reading my post. I'm in a somewhat unique situation and wanted to see if anyone else has gone through something similar. I'm not the victim here by any means. The victims are my husband, my kids, and my parents, who are living with the burden of my past sins, for which I am truly sorry. Let me be blunt. 19 months ago, I was caught having an affair with a married neighbor and father of three. I'm a 32-year-old female. My husband is 39, and the neighbor in question was 27 at the time. For confidentiality, I'll call the neighbor Steve. My husband, Jim, and myself, Amy. As stated, I made a terrible mistake having the affair with Steve, which began a little over 2 years ago. Okay, wait a minute now. She said 19 months before all that's when she was caught. So she was caught in 19 months ago. But the affair started a little over 2 years ago, while the affair lasted nearly 5 months before we were caught. I was only with Steve physically 4 times in total. I know readers here are not going to believe that, but I swear this to be true. Well, let me tell you something. I don't believe it. Now, to answer questions about my marriage that I know everyone reading this has, or we having problems, did I not love my husband? Was I unhappy? The answer is a resounding no to all of those questions. I was completely happy and fulfilled with my marriage. And I love my husband and our two boys, ages 9 and 11, more than anything in the world. Well, I don't buy that because if you're totally happy and fulfilled, you wouldn't be cheating on your husband. I was totally satisfied emotionally, mentally, and physically by Jim. He was all I ever dreamed of, and so much more. My misplaced attraction to Steve happened from a deep place that took me back to my first romantic encounter when I was 18. It was a feral attraction, just like my first time. So she's saying, hey, it was like a wild animal instinct inside me that made me do this. In high school, I dated 4 boys, but nothing serious beyond a quick kiss at the end of the night. In fact, I viewed all those guys as friends since we all grew up together. Then one day I was invited to go to a barbecue that a friend's parents were having there. I met Charles. Charles was my friend's cousin from the first time I saw him. I was taken at the time he was 20, and I was 18. From the moment we met, we couldn't keep our eyes off each other. I don't know what it was, but there was just something between us that drew me to him, like a magnet to steel or a magnet to metal, she says. We started talking at the barbecue, and he had to leave for work, so we exchanged numbers. The following day, Sunday, we met for an ice cream in the evening and took a walk. We talked for hours, totally immersed with each other, and just spontaneously started kissing each other. He invited me back to his apartment, and there I had my first experience. So this girl had never been with a guy before, and in fact, she looked at all the guys that she had gone out with as just, kind of friends. But then she meets this guy that gets her juices flowing, and within what, 24, 36 hours, she's having her first experience with the guy. See how easy it is when a woman really wants you guys? It was magical. Better than I ever dreamed. Something about Charles just excited me and made me want to give him every part of me. To this day, I can't describe it. It was subconscious. I couldn't resist. Beyond the physical relationship, we had absolutely nothing in common. In fact, we were actually incompatible. I broke it off with Charles 11 months later, after the passion wore off. A year later, I met my now husband, Jim. Now listen to this. Listen very closely here, guys. While sparks didn't fly early on with him like they did with Charles, over time, I developed a deep love for Jim that was beyond anything I had ever felt. So what? That tells you right there as all Jim, who is now her husband, was not her first choice. You don't want to be in that position with a woman. You want to be her first choice. If you're not, you're going to have a potential for problems in that marriage. And we're going to see what happens here. But you can see that the guy that really rocked her world and got her juices flowing was this Charles. It's just very likely that this Charles may not have been a relationship type of guy. Or maybe he was a guy that didn't have a bright future. But he was the guy that really turns her inside out. Jim, on the other hand, we're going to find out, is more of a good guy. He's a stable guy, he's a high earner. Those are the kind of men that women want to marry. Whereas Charles, on the other hand, is the kind of guy they want to be with physically. He checked all my boxes, and I knew he was the one. Now she's talking about Jim. Now we were married a year later, and our marriage had been 13 years of joy until I destroyed it. We were blessed with 2 wonderful boys that are the spitting image of their dad and have his awesome personality. I've given you all of these details because they are relevant to why I started the affair with Steve. Steve and his wife, call her Marcia, moved into our neighborhood. They were the youngest couple in the development and were quickly welcomed by all the neighbors. Surprisingly, my husband and I are the second youngest couple, with the rest being in their 40s, 50s, and a few in their 60s. Steve and Marshall were invited to a neighborhood picnic, and it was there that he and I first locked eyes. It was exactly the same vibe I got when I first locked eyes with Charles at that family barbecue so long ago. So here's another guy that gets her juices flowing inside. The next time I locked eyes with Steve was at the car dealership where he worked in finance. We were in the market for a new SUV. So at the picnic, when my husband found out Steve worked at the dealership, they started talking. We went the following week to look at cars. Steve made sure the salesman gave us a good deal, and Steve got us great financing throughout the closing process. Steve and I were making eye contact with each other, but my husband didn't notice. Isn't that terrible? I mean, that is just disgusting. A few days later, I had to bring the vehicle back into the dealership to have mud flaps installed. And it was there that Steve and I had our first inappropriate meeting. Now, when I first read this, I was thinking, oh no, don't tell me that she did it with this guy at the dealership during the daytime. And that's not the case that you're going to see. When he saw me in the lounge, he came out to greet me. He asked me to come back to his office as he had some additional information about the financing to discuss. We sat down and he got coffee for the both of us, and we started chatting just like I did with Charles. He then blurted out and told me that he wanted to speak to me alone, to discuss how he was feeling about me. He said he felt such a vibe and said he saw me glaring at him. I told him I feel something, but it's wrong. He said he knew it was wrong, but didn't care. He wanted me. Fast forward to the following morning when we had our first intimate engagement at his house after our kids went to school and our spouses left for work. Oh my gosh. By the way, my Jim has a good job, and Marcia is an LPN, a licensed practical nurse. As I stated, Steve and I only had physical relations 4 times during the entire 5-month period. There was absolutely no love connection between us as I loved Jim and Steve loved Marcia. What we had was just physical, and I have to be honest, the physical part was not as good as what I had with my husband. Not even close. But it was forbidden and therefore thrilling. And dangerous, I guess. Looking back now, I think being a stay-at-home mom for 11 years made me desperate for the attention I was getting from this attractive younger man. I just thought I could have this secret adventure for a while and still maintain a loving and fulfilling marriage with my husband. So this woman is the ultimate cake eater. At least she wanted to be. That thought all came to an abrupt end one Thursday morning, 19 months ago. Now listen to what happens here. It was then that Steve and I were caught in bed at his house by Marcia's mother. So this guy's mother-in-law catches him in bed. She walked in on us while we were fully engaged and just started screaming obscenities. She first slapped and scratched Steve across the face, leaving a large gash with her nails. She also hit me square on the jaw and pulled out 2 handfuls of my hair before I could gather my clothes and get out of the house. So all this old mama bear, man, she was not playing around. She's saying, "You're not doing my daughter dirty, man. And this lady, you are a tramp and I'm going to rough you up. I'm not, advocating violence here. But I can understand how angry this mother-in-law probably was when I got back to my house. I was in total shock at what just happened. And the reality of what I had done had set in. I knew my fairy tale marriage to Jim was changed forever and could end because of this. I sat silent for a couple hours, just staring at the walls, wondering what I was going to tell my husband. I then decided to call him and left an urgent message. "Yeah, what are you going to say?" "Oh man," I said that I had something very important I needed to discuss. He didn't respond, so I texted him and still nothing. At this point, I knew that Marcia, or possibly even Steve, had likely gotten to him. Well, listen, I can guarantee that Steve did not get to him. Steve, the cheater, was trying to avoid your husband. It more than likely was Marcia, or maybe Marcia's mother. A few minutes later, Marcia and her mother showed up on our front porch and started banging on the door and on the bay window, screaming for me to answer. I didn't. They were yelling obscenities and said they knew I was in there and to open up. I was scared beyond belief and thoroughly embarrassed. Thankfully, my boys were at school when this happened. They finally left and I lay down on the couch crying. I fell asleep briefly and was awakened by the sound of a car door in the driveway. I looked out and saw my husband. I ran into the bathroom to splash my face and look into the mirror before going back into the living room to greet him. When he opened the door, but he didn't enter. Instead, I saw out the window that he was walking down the street towards Steve and Marcia's house. I watched him as he walked down there and entered, where he stayed nearly 3 hours before coming home. So I wonder what Jim was doing down there with Marcia. When he came home, I went to hug him and he just kept me away. I then started apologizing, and he said that my apology was not accepted and he wanted me to leave now. I fell to the floor crying and begging and told him I didn't want to go, but he insisted. You notice how in all these stories the women always go to their knees and start, being subservient and begging. It's just like a ploy. It's like a standard ploy from their playbook. He then called my mother on the phone and told her what I'd done and asked her to come over and pick me up. Mom came over. When she arrived, she apologized to Steve and forcibly convinced me to go back to her house for the night. She then helped me pack some clothes and I left crying, asking Jim what he was going to tell the kids. He said he would take care of it, and I left brokenhearted and ashamed. Well, I applaud the husband here for saying, "Hey, I'm going to talk to the kids," because I think the kids deserve to know now they are young, so he has to handle this the appropriate way. But I think it's important for him to tell them truthfully what is going on and what happened that night. I called Jim, and to my surprise, he answered. When he did, he just said hello and went silent. I told him it was me and that I was so sorry and that I would never do something like this again. I also told him that I will spend the rest of my life making it up to him. Jim said nothing and just asked me if I had anything more to say. I said no and asked him what he was feeling. He told me, "You know what I'm feeling?" And I started crying. He then said he wanted me to stay at my parents' house for a couple weeks before I came home. I reluctantly agreed, but asked when I would get to see him and the boys again. He said he doesn't want to see me now, but agreed to have a brief call with me every evening at 9 o'clock. We ended that first call with me saying, "I love you," and Jim saying nothing, just hanging up. Well, what did you expect him to say? "Oh, I love you too," after you just cheated on the guy. Come on. Our call the following night went the same with me apologizing, and Jim being silent until I quit talking. He then told me that he wants a divorce. Good move, Jim. Hearing this, I melted and begged him for another chance. He refused and said he knows he'll lose half his hard-earned assets. Then in the next breath, he said he'd give me everything he owns if I just disappear and leave him and the boys alone. So this guy, at that point in time, is thinking, I just want to get this woman out of our lives. I broke down and told him, you don't mean that, Jim. And he said, yes, he does. We ended the call and I cried all night. I then started thinking of what I could do to make him stay and came up with a plan to offer him a postnuptial agreement that would be so favorable he couldn't refuse it. All I wanted was to get a second chance to prove my love to him, no matter what the cost. The following week, while Jim was meeting with his divorce attorney, I was meeting with a divorce attorney myself, not to prepare for divorce, but to create a postnuptial agreement to present to Jim before I received the divorce papers. I went to 4 different attorneys before I found one who specialized in postnuptial agreements and who was willing to create such a lopsided agreement. Lopsided in that my husband would receive nearly all the benefit in exchange for remaining married to me for a period of time, thus giving me a second chance at love. Unfortunately, Jim's attorney completed the divorce papers in just 11 days, and I was served at my parents' house. 2 days later, I had Jim served with a proposed postnuptial agreement. We talked that night after he read the proposal. He was a little surprised at what I had to offer, and for the first time, I could sense the caring person I once knew coming through, not the angry man who had been so robotic and cold for the past 2 weeks. Well, how did you expect him to be warm and loving? Financially and personally, the agreement is a complete and total win for Jim and an opportunity for me to prove to him I'm worth keeping. I'm not going to get too specific on what the postnuptial contains, but I will confirm that it does enable Jim to keep nearly all of our marital assets if we stay married and living together for at least 30 months. Additionally, if I were ever to be unfaithful again and we divorce, I lose all claims on our marital assets. I get nothing and forego any alimony and child support payments. The agreement also calls for me to get a full-time job within the next 6 months and begin contributing to an appropriate share of our household expenses. Finally, my husband can see other women if he chooses throughout the remainder of our marriage, so she's offering him an open marriage. I know Jim would never be unfaithful. It's not in him. But I want him to know I love him enough to give him this option. No, the reason why you're putting it in there is because, like you said, that's not him. And he's never going to be unfaithful. So you have no risk there. Don't try to fool us. To my surprise and delight, Jim accepted the offer with one additional stipulation. Jim, what are you doing? You need to divorce this woman. The clause Jim wanted added stated, there is no requirement for us to sleep together or to have any type of marital intimacy during the remainder of our marriage. I was saddened and hesitant to agree to this, but finally did as I felt with time I would win back his respect, trust, and passionate love. Things have not gone as I thought, and that's why I'm here. We are now 17 and a half months into our second marriage, as I call it, and our relationship is one of being housemates, raising our boys. Don't get me wrong, I thank God every day for the second chance I've been given. But what we have wouldn't qualify as a marriage. It's more like we are 2 divorced people cohabitating. Since my affair, Jim has shown absolutely no affection towards me whatsoever. And I mean nothing, not even a kiss or a hug. So she's saying in 17 and a half months, this guy has totally avoided any contact with her, any physical contact, even something so innocent as a kiss or a hug. He won't even let me near him to express any type of affection, although I do get in for a hug and a kiss occasionally before he can block me. But I can tell he doesn't like it, so I don't do it very often. Even so. Now listen, the old Jim here. Even so, he requires me to submit monthly to at-home STD testing. So even though he's not touching her, he's saying, woman, I don't trust you. So therefore, I want you tested every month for STDs. Oh, wow, man. Also, since the affair, Jim will not go out in public with me, even to family events. Well, he's embarrassed of you. He's ashamed. When our boys have games, we alternate. Who takes them? When it's my turn, Jim shows up at the games, but doesn't sit with me. Instead, he normally stands on the sidelines with other fathers and acts like I'm not there. The only time we go out together is when we go out of town or on vacations, which we do often when we travel. He orders adjoining rooms with 2 queen beds each. The boys stay in one room and we stay in the other in separate beds. I look forward to every trip as these are the times we are closest, and where I've almost been able to break through to him. I've pointed this out to Jim and have suggested moving from our neighborhood, as I know. If we did, we could start anew. Jim refuses and says the only way he will move from the neighborhood is if he gets a job promotion, which requires him to relocate. If not, he plans to stay in our current home until our boys graduate high school. The boys don't want to move either, as all of their friends live within a half-mile of our house, as does all of Jim's friends. Since the affair, I've lost all friendships I had in our neighborhood. Steve and Marshall divorced 8 months after D-Day, but Marcia and her kids still live in the same house down the street. All the neighborhood women I was once so close to have basically cut me off and blame me for breaking up the family. Well, not only do they blame you for breaking up that family, they're saying, hey, I want to keep this woman away from my husband because she may do the same. As such, my home has become a prison of sorts, as when I'm here, I never go out front and just stay inside or in my backyard tending to my gardens. My boys are always out in the neighborhood or they have their friends over to our house, including Marcia and Steve's kids. Thankfully, nothing has really changed much in their world. Jim does the same. He's good friends with all the neighborhood men. The guys are either over at our house smoking cigars and sipping bourbon at night on our back porch, or he's at one of their homes. So these guys just like hanging out after work and relaxing. Jim basically goes to work, then to the gym, and then comes home. He fixes himself something to eat, and then it's off to a game or practice, or he's socializing with friends. He doesn't eat dinner with us and will not eat anything I make anymore. Although he did sneak a few cookies I made the other day. On the weekends, he fires up the grill and only eats what he cooks, none of my dishes. So this guy doesn't even want to eat any food that she's preparing. The weekday dinners I have with my boys have been a great bonding experience for us. They like to eat shortly after getting home from school, so the three of us normally have dinner around 4 o'clock. I have everything prepared and they set the table, help me with final food prep, then help clean up after dinner. I cherish this time as it is. Really brought us closer and has taught them valuable skills. Well, that's good. I mean, having dinner together like a family there. Although your husband should be there as well. That's a good thing. And teaching them how to cook and how to clean up and giving them that discipline. I applaud you for that. They even help me in the garden where we have created an awesome space in our backyard with landscaping. So in summary, some things in my life are really great. While some aspects are just awful, I guess this is just a long way for me to ask whether you think this marriage is worth continuing as is. Or if I should just let Jim go now and give him the financial benefit as if he'd stayed with me. I know deep down, he's not happy. How could he be? It's clear he no longer views me as his wife or lover, just as a co-parent, which we are both great at. By the way, I love Jim so much and will carry the burden of what I did to him for the rest of my life. I want nothing more than to get back to the loving relationship with him I once had, but I don't think he will ever let us go there. See, now she's blaming him again. She's saying, I don't think he will ever let us go there. Let me know what you think I should do. I'd really appreciate any suggestions anyone has for how I could successfully earn back the love and trust of my husband after betraying him so brazenly. Thank you, Amy. Amy, let me tell you something. You're never going to win back his trust. I don't care what you do. The trust will never come back. And the love he still has for you is different now than it was previously. And it's never going to be the same. Therefore, my recommendation to both you and Jim is to divorce. Go your separate ways and rebuild your lives. That would be the best thing for you, your husband, and for your children. Okay, now let's take a look at a few responses that she got from the community. But before we do, I want to remind you, if you are liking what you hear so far, hit that like button that will help get this video seen by people all over the world. Now let's take a look at some of these responses that she received. The first one's from a woman. She says, Amy, I think, in your case, what will draw your husband back to you is distance. You should stay married, but separate for a while. Rent an apartment somewhere nearby so you can still have that quality time with your boys, as they say. Distance makes the heart grow fonder, and I think Jim will quickly realize this. I do hope you work things out as you seem so well matched. Well, I don't think they seem so well matched. I think they're opposites, to be honest with you. The next response is from a man. He says, if you really love your man, as you say, you will set him free and allow him to keep the majority of the fortune he built. You've already taken his pride and dignity and destroyed his soul. Isn't that enough for you? He'll never trust you again because you are untrustworthy. If another Charles or Steve crosses your path in the future, you'll do the same damn thing. Well, I have to agree with this guy because she's obviously got a type of guy that she is just attracted to. And as she said herself, she admitted it's like a feral attraction, like a wild animal. She's not going to be able to resist it. The next response is from a woman. She says it's clear that you are physically attracted to a certain type of man and are mentally attracted to a certain type of man. With Charles and Steve being the former her and Jim the latter in your 20s and 30s, that physical attraction is much more powerful. But I assure you, in time, the mental attractiveness and love of a good man like Jim is far more important. Hang on to him. So this woman sounds like she speaks from experience here. And the final response is from a guy. He says, women like you are the reason I've not yet married. It amazes me how you can go for years being a loyal wife, and then immediately hop in the sack with any strange man that gets your juices flowing. I just don't understand this. I encounter beautiful women all the time, but I would never think of doing anything with them because I'm in a relationship with my girlfriend. Good grief, he says. And now for the updates. And she's got two updates here. She's got an interim update, and then she has a final update so we can see how everything turned out. So her first update here comes 7 weeks after her original post. She says, I've come back to give an update on my situation. Last month, I took the advice that a number of you gave me and decided to move out of the house for a while to give our marriage some space. I got a short-term rental on a nice furnished apartment nearby and have been living there ever since. Why miss not being in the same house as my husband and my boys and miss my gardens? It has been a relief getting out of that neighborhood. There are just so many terrible memories and bad vibes there, all of which I know are my fault. I'm not excusing it anyway. What I caused when I broke the news to Jim of my decision. He seemed surprised and a little sad and asked a lot of questions. His reaction told me a lot. It told me that he still loves me. I saw it in his eyes. I pick up my boys after school and they come over here and eat dinner with me and spend the night a few days a week. Jim and I are flexible on that, and the kids know they can come and go as they please, and either place. The real issue I have now is that since I'm out of the house, I don't get to see Jim much at all, nor am I in a position where I get to talk to him. So I end up calling him, asking him stupid questions multiple times a week just so we can keep in touch. We've had a number of long conversations, sessions about everything and nothing at all recently, which is another indication that the man still loves me. I know I love him. That's all for now. Thanks, and take care. And again, we have another situation here where this woman, the cheater, is slowly reeling. The guy back in, you can see him starting to break down. He was sad that she moved out, and now he's talking to her, having long conversations on the phone. Be strong, Jim. Be strong now for the final update. And this final update came 5 months after the update we just reviewed. She says, I've delayed coming back to update as I wanted to give time to enable me to provide a complete perspective to my situation. What a journey. Talk about a roller coaster. Life definitely has its ups and downs. First, the downside. After 2 years into our second marriage, Jim decided that it would be best for us to divorce. Now, what she's talking about here when she's referring to her second marriage is since they put that post-nuptial agreement in place. Jim said while he still loves me and would like to possibly reestablish a romantic relationship at some point in the future, he just can't do it while we're married. I don't understand what he means, but he explained it something psychological. He said while we're still married, he feels disrespected and betrayed, but after we divorce, he thinks he can let those feelings go. Well, that's because if he remains tethered to you under marriage, then he's going to feel disrespected. He's going to feel less than he's going to feel embarrassed. He's going to feel like a sin, like a cock. He doesn't want that. A man wants to feel strong, whereas if he divorces you now, all of a sudden he takes back all of the power. And if he decides to date you every once in a while or even treat you like a friends with benefits, he's now in control of that relationship. He said it would be like dating again, and promised me we would go out to celebrate our divorce the day it's final and possibly spend the night. I know this sounds like a crazy ploy to divorce me without guilt on his part, but I'm up for it if it means I can keep this man in my life as my partner, lover, and friend. If we do reconnect, Jim made it clear we will never get remarried. Well, good, Jim, because you were worrying me there for a while. He feels if we truly love each other, a binding contract isn't necessary. I agree with that statement, but I do wish there was some way he could do this without divorcing me. As for the divorce, I'm voluntarily letting him keep 3/4 of our marital assets, even though he didn't fulfill the stipulations of the post now. I'm also not going to pursue alimony or child support from him. Well, okay, now I've got to hand it to her. If she really is going to do that, which I don't know if I believe it or not, but let's just take her for her word. She is being fair to her husband in this divorce. I know there are women out there who are going to read this and chide me for being so giving, but I feel he earned the money and would have given all of his fortune to me if I had remained faithful to him. I'm at peace with this decision. Listen to this now, she says. Even with a reduced settlement, I'll be able to live comfortably for the next 8 years or more without working, but now I am working, so I'm in even better shape. There. So he obviously had built up, a good nest egg for them. This lady was stupid. I mean, cheating on this guy with some dude that works at an auto dealership in finance. I mean, I'm not downplaying that job, but obviously she was married to a high-value guy. And to put that all at risk for just the thrill of man, how stupid this woman has to be kicking herself even today. In closing, I just want to thank those who sent me responses. You don't know how much your words guided my actions and helped me through this trying time. Before I sign off here, I wanted to give some advice to women out there. Have difficulty controlling temptation, as I obviously do. My advice to you is resist. Don't do it. The thrill is not worth the risk. It's almost like the juice isn't worth the squeeze, as the saying goes. If you feel you can't keep yourself in check, seek professional help. I can assure you from experience the short-term high is not worth the long-term loss of love. Respect, trust. My best to all of you. Amy. So that's her story, and I thought it was a great story, and I'm really glad how this turned out. I mean, the fact that this Jim remained in that marriage with her and it was a miserable existence. He wasn't touching. He wouldn't eat any of the food that she made. He wouldn't go out in public with her. That's no way to live. Why didn't he just cut it off? He was looking probably financially like, oh yeah, if I stick it out with her for, whatever that time frame that she had in there, I think it was 30 months or 36 months, I'm going to keep 25% more of my fortune, which obviously was a lot of money according to what she said. But I'll tell you what, money is not worth giving up your happiness for. So let's take a look at some of the morals of this story. And there were a ton in here, but I just picked out 4 key ones that I thought were good takeaways. The first one, when a woman truly desires a man, she will move mountains to get him and do everything to please him. Remember that there's very little work that the man has to do in that case, okay? She is going to pursue him aggressively if she really wants him. Next, if you had to work hard to get her, you're probably not her first choice. Remember that, guys. If you had to date this woman and take her here, take her there, buy her this, buy her there, and she's not giving you all the good stuff, and she's making you wait months and months, chances are you're not her first choice. If you were not her first choice, it is logical that the chances she will cheat would be higher. There's no question about that. I haven't seen any studies to that extent, but it just makes logical sense. Right. And then finally, it's best to divorce and provide your kids with 2 happy homes versus staying together in a miserable one. I said that on the last video too. Don't stay in that environment because your kids are witnessing what's going on and they're saying, oh, you know what? Marriage business, this must be how marriages are just miserable. Dad and mom really not liking each other, and mom cheated on dad. You don't want your kids to go through that. I discovered my soon-to-be ex-wife cheating. About 7 months ago, I went through all the heartache, the denial, the pain, the pick-me attempts. I was seriously depressed for a long while. I never confronted her, but I was a total mess. She must have known. I knew she just didn't care, I guess. Or at least I assumed that about 2 to 3 months ago, I was just done with it. All done with her, done with the marriage. I just didn't care anymore. I completely checked out of the relationship and started preparing for divorce and my new life to come. I avoided my wife as much as possible. I tried to stay out of the house when she was home. I would not engage in conversation. When she asked me a question, I would only answer yes. No for maybe or I don't know. I even left the divorce lawyer's bills out in the open. She must have known I was checked out and preparing for divorce. Kids even asked me about it. Even they could see what was going on. I even did the "we both love you" speech. It's not your fault. Sometimes grown-ups can't be together anymore, etc. My wife was actually in the room and must have heard me talk to the kids. She didn't comment or object. I took her. Silence is consent. Anyways, a few days ago I met a girl I used to know in school before I ever met my wife. We always had this tension between us, some kind of chemistry. We would always flirt and be touchy, but we never actually did anything about it. Let's call her Monica, because I think she looks like Monica Bellucci. Monica and her family moved away before I found the guts actually to do anything about it. I regretted that for a long time, but I was young, shy, and stupid. I haven't been thinking about Monica for a long time, actually. I haven't seen her for years. But as soon as we met, the tension between us was palpable, even more than I remember, and communication was effortless. She actually asked me out. I explained the situation to her with my soon-to-be ex-wife. I told her I wanted to be officially separated before I started dating. I wasn't going to cheat. Monica respected that. She gave me her number and told me to give her a call, as soon as I was done doing what I had to do. She told me she never married, and she was really excited to get to know me again. I was even more excited. The encounter motivated me to finally confront my wife and officially get separation and divorce going. I was really happy when I went home and sat down waiting for my wife. I was actually grinning like a lunatic when I asked her to sit down and told her that we had to talk. I told her I've known about her cheating for a long time. I told her I assumed that she knew. I knew, especially since I checked out of our relationship for the last 3 months. She didn't seem to mind that I no longer cared. So I told her that I wanted to start dating and get on with my life. I concluded my speech with all taken into consideration. It's time for us to get divorced. Don't you agree? Her reaction was totally not what I expected. She started crying. Not just regular crying either, like a desperate soul-breaking noise. I have never heard anything like it. She was blabbering excuses, asking for second chances that the affair did mean anything. We could fix this if we tried counseling, etc. I was a bit shocked. I thought she would be happy. I told her she could go and be with this guy without guilt. He is obviously more important to her than her family. If he wasn't, why go with him in the first place? She must have known this would destroy us. She can't possibly be that stupid Kanji. I told her if she believed we needed to fix our family or our marriage. The time to do that would have been 7 months ago, before she had the affair. Now it's too late. It's broken beyond repair. I don't think we had any problems in our marriage. She didn't talk to me, and I'm not a mind reader, so whatever it was, I had no way of fixing it. Since she started this affair with the other guy, she obviously thought something was wrong or missing something that was so wrong that it couldn't be solved by talking to me. Something had to be so lacking or so wrong that she was okay with having our children grow up in a broken home from there on in. If not, why do it? I clearly and calmly explained that there is no way for her to unearth this guy for the last 7 months, and there is no way to undo the pain and suffering she caused me. The pain she caused that made me arrive at this point of basically being indifferent, or actually, I kind of hate her guts. I'm simply being civil for the sake of being able to co-parent our children in the future. I told her I didn't believe she even cared about me. No person that cared even a little for someone else would put them through this kind of pain. They would not betray them in such a way that she had done. Her telling me that she loves me has no meaning or credibility because her actions conclusively prove otherwise. She became completely incoherent at this point. I could not make heads or tails of anything she's saying. It's just a jumbled mess. In the end, I had to call her sister because honestly, I wasn't going to take care of her. Her sister showed up, and after I explained what was going on, she took her away. I felt tremendous relief when they were gone, like I could finally breathe the last time in 7 months. I don't know what I'm looking for here. She must have known this was going to happen. She must have wanted it. She can't possibly be that stupid that she thinks this behavior, these choices she made, would result in anything other than divorce and a broken family. She is beautiful. She is smart. Our marriage was great up until she started her affair. I have accepted the life changes. I have moved past it. Now she's pretending that she loves me, that she wants us to remain married in a family. What could possibly be her motivation to have this major drama at this point? What could you gain? I mean, she couldn't possibly expect us to try to reconcile at this point. Could she? There must be some kind of ploy. I just can't figure out what the effort is. I have lots of evidence of her cheating. I live in a European country, and this would mean no alimony or anything for her. Could that be it? Is she afraid I will out her? Could that be it? She wants me to feel sympathy, so I don't tell people about what she did. Her fair partner is married, so maybe she is scared. I will tell his wife. I just can't get my head around it. Anyway, I just had to get this out of my head. I was hoping it would make more sense typed out. But no, I am just as confused now as when I started this rant. The cult of Abe Lincoln thinks you absolutely should tell his wife that he is cheating on her. I believe it's a sign of respect as a kindred spirit whose soul has been crushed by infidelity. I guarantee you will cause her pain, and I almost as much guarantee she will. Thank you for it. You have to think it's all about the kids at this point. I would strongly encourage you to focus on being the best father. And no matter how much it hurts, not to allow them to see that their mother has ripped your guts out and stomped on them. Kids are smart. They'll figure it out. Be the best man you can be for them. You'll regret doing anything less. As for Monica, hey, she sounds really cool, and she's understanding of what you have going on, which is awesome. I would advise strongly against rushing into anything, however. You have a massive variable changing your marriage, obviously, and it may be best not to upset the equation with another. I've seen many men sign up for the first replacement they can find, and most came out worse for wear. That said, you sound like you two have a great chemistry and history, so best of luck. After all, it sounds like she's willing to be patient, so why not? You'll regret it if not. Lastly, and most importantly, dude, you owe nobody an explanation or apology for how you handle this. It's heartbreaking to learn your trust has been so badly misplaced and then have to confront the massive black hole in front of you. Your wife completely betrayed her family, and you were completely correct in thinking she, at least subconsciously, was willfully breaking apart her own family. The AP responds, "Thank you for your advice. I'm leaning towards telling the affair partner's wife. Thank you for your advice on the kids as well. I was already very focused on that. This is going to be hard for them, so I will do everything I can to be there for them whenever they need me." Update. My cheating soon-to-be ex-wife confuses the hell out of me. So first of all, thank you to everyone. It's been overwhelming in many ways. I haven't had a chance to answer everyone, but I have tried to read everything I posted 3 days after the conversation with my soon-to-be ex-wife, and I had hardly slept. Actually, I passed out reading messages on my computer. When I woke up the next day, I had an interesting keyboard pattern on my face and a much clearer mind. I decided to make some lists for and against all the key points. I put a bunch of papers on the wall. I made a headline on each of them. Our kids how to behave when meeting the wife. My marriage, Monica. Questions to ask my wife, etc. The final document is too big to retype here, so I will just cover some of the main points. My goal was trying to figure out what core principles I want to do in place, and what are the most important things that I wanted to focus on. Then I went through each of those and evaluated whether or not I would actually be able to achieve anything meaningful from it and what would be a meaningful result in the case. I got anywhere. As for the kids, they are my number one priority. I will increase my efforts to help them deal with this more individual counseling, family counseling. I will arrange trips and spend more quality time together and make new memories. I will also involve the rest of my family on my side to drown them in love and help them through this. I will also talk to their teachers, coaches, etc. I want to make sure their support system is immediate and everywhere. I got an STI test and I've also booked DNA testing of the kids. Just thinking they may not be mine makes me very uncomfortable. But I have to make sure for their sake, if they're not mine. Maybe there are some medical history they need to know about. What if they want to reach out to the real father when they get older? How will they see me if I don't act now to make sure hopefully they're mine, and I will be stressed until I get it confirmed one way or the other? After talking alone to their therapists, first they joined us and we explained everything carefully and let them ask as many questions as they wanted. I repeated over and over and over again that they could come to me with anything. I am their dad. I love them more than anything, and I will always, always be there for them, whatever they need, no matter what. As for my marriage, I came to the conclusion that I can never trust my wife again. Without trust, it's not possible to have a relationship. I also came to the conclusion that I do not love my wife. I don't love the person she has become. My love her used to be a very big part of me, but she killed that with the affair. It totally changed my perception of her. Maybe I could learn to love her again, but to be able to do that, I would have to want that. And to be honest, I don't want to. Better to end it and get on with our lives. I no longer want this marriage. I don't want our relationship. I don't want her. The part of me that loved her. The part of me that used to feel endless joy and happiness when thinking about her. That now fills me with dread and memories of pain. Actually, any thought of association with her causes me serious discomfort at the moment. Divorce is inevitable, I think, and I want to get it done as soon as possible. As for Monica, I talked to her a lot. I had some concerns based on the feedback I had here on Reddit. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea to jump into a new relationship. I also didn't want to bring her into my mess. And let's face it, my life is a total mess at the moment. She disagreed. She said life is messy. Might as well see how we deal with that together. While dating, I found out why she never married. She was engaged, actually. Her fiancé died unexpectedly in a work accident almost 5 years ago. This devastated her, and even though she had gone on a few dates since, she had not been able to form a connection with anyone from her perspective. Life is short, and you have to take risks whenever a true opportunity presents itself. I explained how I don't want to start anything until after the divorce is official. I don't want to cheat while I'm technically married. She agrees and respects that. I also talked about how it could be perceived if we all of a sudden were an item out in the open for everyone to see. It would be easy to try to frame her as the homewrecker. I don't want that. She agreed. And we will wait a little bit after it's official until we do anything. I feel incredibly drawn to Monica. This phone call is a borderline emotional affair in my mind, so I will not contact her again until I am done with legal separation. We agreed that I would get my affairs in order and contact her when I was ready, and we would see what to do. Then when it came to planning the meeting with my wife, I wrote down some principles on who I want to be. I would make every effort, my meeting with her, to try to be that man, the man I used to be before all this. I decided I needed to stay calm. I would make every effort not to be cruel. I would keep in mind that all the purpose of this conversation was to move on with our life. The purpose was to be able to co-parent as good as possible for our kids. Still, I prepared a list of questions to try to understand her thinking to have this affair. And also, what was she thinking about moving forward? I'm not going to be deceitful. I was not going to give her false hope that there was a chance to reconcile, just to get a postnup or some benefit in divorce. I have decided to act as fairly as possible. I will divide all assets with her equally. We will have 5,050 custody. Even though she has acted terribly towards me, I will not use her as a role model. I will act so I can stand by my actions today, tomorrow, and 20 years from now. I hate her for what she did to me, what she did to us, to our children, but I love the memories of the good times we had together while it lasted. And I love our children that we created and raised together. I will try to remember her in this light moving forward, not her cheating. I can't carry hate in my heart, so at some point I need to forgive her so I can move on. Up until the point she cheated, I think we had a very good marriage. We would make love every day. We spent a lot of quality time together. We hardly ever argued. We sacrificed for each other willingly. I was actually very open with her up until I discovered her infidelity. I believe she was open with me as well. But now her actions show this is not to be the case. So Saturday came and I went to see her. Her sister had warned me that she was not in a good shape. She was not wrong. I soon-to-be ex-wife looked absolutely horrible. Bloodshot eyes, swollen face, unkempt hair. She looked many sizes smaller than I remember, like she had imploded into herself. I doubt she has slept or eaten much this week. We all sat down and my wife was shaking almost uncontrollably. I felt surprisingly calm. I felt for her obvious pain, but not as a loving spouse. I felt for her pain like I would feel for an actor in a movie I was engaged in. I don't know how to explain the feeling, really. It confirmed that I probably don't love her anymore. I just sat there and waited for her to collect herself enough to speak. She started several times but would break down crying. Watching her, it's clear it's not an act. I've seen her cry many times before, but never like this. I guess people can fake cry, but I doubt anyone can fake the look of crying nonstop for a week mixed with soul-torturing sobs and giant snot bubbles. Once she finally started talking, it was like a dam burst. She apologized every second word. Surprisingly, she didn't try to excuse herself or shift the blame to me. Her sister cried as well, and would from time to time berate her. It also became clear that her sister had warned her this would happen. Apparently, it's how her sister lost her fiancé. You're back. I didn't know that her sister was cheating, gave my wife a midlife crisis of sorts. She started to think about cheating a lot. In the end, it seems she did this because she got infatuated, a crush on the guy and couldn't help herself. She never believed I would find out or that anyone would get hurt. It was a completely selfish thing. She was apparently very happy in our marriage. She convinced herself that she deserves this fling and that I probably supported her choice if I knew how happy she was at the time. She convinced herself that this affair would pass, and we would all go back to living happy family lives ever after. She had no idea I had found out, and only when I started to check out did she start to question what was going on. I learned she broke up with the affair partner about 1.5 months ago. The buzz had started to wear off. She gave me her phone to check, and she had blocked him when I blocked him. The messages dating back 1.5 months started pouring in. She had been trying to re-engage me in our marriage, but I hadn't shown an interest of having anything to do with her up until I sat her down. She was convinced that we would be able to find a way back together, and that we would end up stronger than ever. When she looked into my eyes, when I confronted her, she understood that this was probably the end of the line. The reality of it all hit her like a ton of bricks. I tried asking her some questions, primarily about what it was in her mind that gave her the right to do this to us, to our children. Basically, it's nothing but selfishness on her part. I realized, like so many of you pointed out, I will never get the answers that I'm looking for because they don't exist. There is no acceptable answer for cheating. Therefore, I will never get an acceptable answer. I did, however, get closure in a weird way. I got to explain to her how badly she had hurt me, the incredible pain she had caused. I got her to accept that it's her fault that our marriage is broken and that our children will grow up in a broken home. This gave me a strange feeling of peace. She had been reading everything she could about fixing a broken marriage after infidelity. She had a complete timeline, a detailed confession signed, and everything ready for me. I haven't read it, I just gave it to my lawyer. She begged and begged and begged for a second chance. She would do anything she said. I told her I didn't believe her. In fact, I didn't believe anything she said. I just don't trust her. She asked me what she could do to fix it. I told her she broke it. If she doesn't know, how can you expect me to present her with a solution? I asked her if she was in my shoes. What would she answer to that? If anything, these types of questions went back and forth for a while. In the end, she conceded that had the rules been reversed, she probably wouldn't forgive this either. I told her I had got an SDI test, and then I would DNA test the kids. She completely broke down for about 20 minutes when she heard this. She insisted that this was the only time she had ever cheated or done anything out of line again. After some back and forth, she conceded that I had no reason to believe her. And if she was in my shoes, she would probably do the same. I asked her if the affair partner's wife knew. She didn't know. She conceded that she deserved to know. I asked her if she would tell her. Or should I? She asked me if I would consider reconciling or marriage counseling if she told her. I told her no, but I said it would help her regain a tiny bit of respect in my eyes. She promised to tell the pair partner's wife and everybody else she would go to HR as well and confess everything. Again, I told her I don't really believe her. She swore she would never be with anyone else and that she would never give up on getting back with me, even if it took the rest of her life. I didn't believe her, but I didn't say anything. It was getting redundant at this point. She offered me a one-sided open marriage, access to all her communications, 24/7 availability. I told her that I had talked to Monica, and then I'm waiting because I don't want to cheat. I don't want to be in an open relationship. It would hurt her if we did that, and I don't want to hurt other people like she hurt me. I don't want to be her jailer either. Constantly snooping on her and being suspicious isn't grounds for a healthy relationship. I'm not interested in intimacy without a deeper connection either. Sex for the sake of mechanical sex has no value for me. If I need mechanical release, I can fix that on my own. I don't need a partner for that. At this point, we were all exhausted. We've been going out for over 5 hours, and my wife had been crying on a scale from bad to absolutely horrifying almost the entire time. We weren't going to get any further on this. It was done. I told her very clearly that the love I used to have for her had died. I didn't recognize the person she had become anymore. Our family had died by her hand, and then I would go through a divorce. I told her she could not undo what she has done. The only way to avoid this result would have been to not start the affair 7 months ago. I didn't want our marriage back. I didn't want her back. I did not want more pain. I suggested we go. No contact for a while to get some distance and perspective. I told her I already filed and that my mind was made up. We could start family therapy to co-parent, but beyond that, I don't even want to see her. This is incredibly painful to tell her. She was crying hard while mumbling, "No, no, 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 please no, please no." When I got her to leave, she got a massive, almost explosive nosebleed. She started to reach for me, but she passed out. I managed to catch her before she hit the floor. I drove her and her sister to the ER and stayed until I learned she would be okay last night. And today, soon-to-be ex-wife has been telling everyone what she has done. Dave, her partner's wife, called me this morning to get confirmation of what my wife had told her was true. I sent her copies of some of the evidence. I just learned she kicked her husband out. She wants to meet and look at more of the evidence she's been suspecting for a long time, but hasn't had anything solid. I suggested we sit down for dinner tomorrow. She had a need to talk and asked if we could talk on the phone. I don't know if I can take that on right now. I told her maybe later. I freely admit I'm feeling like a piece of crap. I haven't been able to sleep. Cracks are forming in my resolve. I know I must stay strong, but it's very hard. Why do I feel so guilty? Why do I feel responsible to try to fix this? We may be able to fool ourselves for a while, but it will most likely not work long term. Some of her friends and relatives have been calling me up and cursing me out. They think I should give her a second chance, but in my mind, I am thinking, why drag out the pain? Better to get it over with so we can start to heal and build our new lives. So that's it. Nothing spectacular, no revenge, no resolve, no peace, no happy ending, just more pain for all of us. My mind is in a very dark place right now. I don't know what to do, to be honest. Thomas J. Gatto has a closing remark. I've always had this perspective about marriage. It's obvious. Like you two are building, adding parts, and decorating to make it the most wonderful base until your soon-to-be ex-wife threw to the ground, and now is trying to pick up the pieces and rebuild it. Some pieces will never be found, and after you leave, she may try to show you that she's trying to rebuild the base. But there will be cracks everywhere, and every time you may touch that base, you will get cut. She may spend the rest of her life trying to fix the broken base, but I recommend you start building another base with another person. By the way, I had a midlife crisis because my sister cheated and constantly thought about cheating. A married person who really loves their partner would never do that. I am deeply sorry this happened to you, my man. Her family isn't worth your time. I mean, both kids, her and her sister, are cheaters. And now they're crying because the consequences are now too big, both losing their partners for life for them to bear. Don't cave in. Remember, you are the rewards you will always be looking for. This is the perfect time to rebuild your self-esteem. Do some exercise. Trust me, do it. We'll end up with 5 kilos more, just like me. Please exercise. Find a new hobby. Go out for walks with a mask and all protective things like alcohol. Also, you're currently giving your kids the best example. The cheating is unforgivable, and that they deserve better when they are cheated on. When they are. Hey guys, so my advice for you is to find a partner from a good background that don't have that kind of stuff going on in their life, or to find a good community with good faith and strict life. Thanks for listening.